Hi, it's Andy from Leadability Media, and today I want to talk about whether you should do digital marketing in-house or by yourself, or outsource it to a consultant, freelancer, or agency. Okay, so let's just go through those two big options. Okay, so the first one is doing it in-house by yourself, which now the big advantage is going to be that it's going to be a lot cheaper and you're not going to have so much of a strain on your cash flow. Unfortunately, there comes some downside as well because it's going to be a lot probably slower if you're not used to doing this because there's quite a considerable amount to learn. A lot of people that do try to do it by themselves, when we speak to them, they say, wow, they didn't realize how much is involved and how much time is needed and all the kind of branches of specialism. So in terms of specialism, you've got kind of, I would say, two camps. You've got the creative side and you've got the technical side. So it's kind of, you need a bit of a right and left brain to deal with both. So I'll give you for an example or a list of examples of the kind of things that you need to learn or practice or do and implement. Okay, so you've got to design and build what are known as marketing and sales funnels in a digital environment. You've got to figure them out and then you've got to actually implement them. So that's number one. Another one is copywriting. If you don't know what copywriting is, it's basically the art of writing persuasively, whether that's in the form of an email on your website or whether it's in an ad, for example. You need to know how to write copy. We call it copy for short, by the way. And then you've got email marketing, media buying. Now that's another big one, media buying or advertising. So online advertising platforms like Google Ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, they've all got their own quirks and their own algorithms and their own bidding systems, and you've got to learn those things as well if you don't want to throw your money away. So that's another one. Analytics, there's something called digital analytics. That's a particular field of discipline, which is basically understanding how to interpret all the data that comes in and how to make use of all of that data and then turn it into actionable insights and changes that you're going to do with all your marketing. That's another one. And another big one is conversion rate optimization, which is the art of actually improving, making big and small improvements on your website, your landing pages, all kind of things like that. Okay, so you've got those things. Now, you need to sort of almost be like a unicorn, right, to learn all this stuff, which is why we've got different people in the agency that specialize in these different things, because there's just no way we could actually do this. One person could do this. I mean, it's feasible, but you need to have like the brain the size of a planet, I think, anyway. The other big problem, obviously, if you do it by yourself, is that the changes are very fast. So if you learn something today, within 2 or 3 months, it's probably changed because digital just moves so quickly. So that's another big problem. But as I've said lots of negative things, but there's a good side of it too, is that it's a hell of a lot cheaper for you to do it by yourself, and it can be quite fun if you're into that kind of thing. All right, now let's go to the second option, which is actually outsourcing. Okay, so this means that you're going to work with, for example, a consultant, a freelancer, an agency. An agency typically covers all the different disciplines that I just mentioned before. So the big disadvantage, obviously, is that you've got to fork out your hard-earned cash, right? But generally speaking, if the agency is good, they're going to get you results relatively quickly. Although marketing will take its own time, there's lots of testing to be done and so on. But marketing, generally speaking, when you outsource it to an expert, they can get it done fairly quickly for you, providing they've got data and budget to work with. Okay, so that's the big advantage. Now, it's a bit like us. I mean, when you go to outsource, we don't outsource, we don't do our accounting, I should say, in-house. We outsource that, right? I don't have any interest in filing a tax return. I have interest in paying the least amount of tax possible, right? Who doesn't? But I mean, essentially, I don't get into the nitty-gritty. I don't get into the detail of which forms to fill out, which law to follow, and which things I can deduct. I mean, I have an understanding, a general scope of understanding, but I don't get into the nitty-gritty. So we outsource all of that to an accounting firm and they deal with that for us completely. Now, if you do go down this route, it's very important, just as a little tip, is that you sit down with whoever you're going to work with, make clear what your expectations and objectives really are. So how many leads are you looking for? What kind of sales are you looking for? There's all kind of things that you need to set those down right at the very beginning of any of those relationships, okay? And the second thing that's important is to make sure you have a working, healthy communication, line of communication, and processes that are sat down with the freelancer or the agency. So that's basically just a little tip on the outsourcing. With that said, there's a third model which is kind of like in between the first two, which is what I would call, it's a mixed model, but it's what I would call consultative coaching, either at an individual level or a group level. So these are obviously somewhere in between. The pricing is somewhere between the two. And it's a good option because basically you get support either on an individual level or at a group level. And it's quite healthy in a group because you're often sharing with a small number of group of people who have similar issues and they're trying to solve the same kind of problems. So that's kind of like a third option that exists out there. Now, so just as a summary, basically it comes down to your efficiency and effectiveness. I mean, how much is this going to cost you in terms of opportunity, or what the finance people would say would be the cost of capital? Which one is going to give you the quicker and faster return for you, okay? How much is your time worth? That comes down to like understanding, for example, your effective hourly rate. How much are you looking to earn effectively in 1 hour during the course of one working month, for example? And that could be an actual or it could be a targeted number, by the way. So with that said, those are the three models. Number one, you can do it by yourself. Cheaper, hell of a lot cheaper, but there's an awful lot to learn and you've got to put in the time and the hours to implement and try things. Number two is obviously the agency. It's obviously more expensive, but you tend to get results much quicker. And third, there's the hybrid model where you get a little bit in between, where they don't actually, no one does the work for you. You do it, but you've got some coaching and guidance or assistance and consultancy that goes with it. Anyway, so I hope that gave you a bit of an idea on which direction you want to go. Hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.